Hello there, good evening and welcome to another episode of Business Focus here on TV3 with me, Michael Obudu. Coming up tonight on the show, as Treasury bill rates drop and investment options dwindle, what alternatives exist for investors? Today on Business Focus, we engage a finance and investment analyst on financial instruments worth considering for now. Details coming up shortly. Before we go into the nitty-gritty of today's topic, we'll bring you updates from the currency and commodities market as well as the T-bills market. Remember that Business Focus is brought to you by EcoBank and Telecel. But you know, every day people face different emergencies: police emergency, fire emergency, medical emergency, you name it. But many Ghanaians don't know their emergency numbers. Well, here's one you'd want to remember. That's *770#. Yes, *770# is the new EcoBank mobile money emergency number. *770# gives you instant access to loans, fund transfers, utility payments, airtime and data purchases, and so much more, even without data. So there's no need to panic when you find yourself in any money emergency. All you have to do is dial *770# because EcoBank will always come to your rescue, and EcoBank is your Pan-African bank. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring you details of our headline story for today. Obudu. You know, over the last couple of years after the domestic debt exchange program, a lot of investors have become skeptical. So a lot of them turned to the T-bills market for as an option for investing their monies. But interestingly, the rates that had remained high over the last couple of years has begun to see significant cuts this year as part of this government's debt management strategy. From about 28%, the rate has dropped sharply in weeks to around 15%. I'll walk you through what the dynamics have looked like over the last couple of days, and after that we'll delve into what next for people, especially those looking for options of where to put their money. So just to give you a picture of what the T-bills market has looked like, for the previous 3 consecutive times government wasn't able to attain its revenue target on the T-bills market. They weren't able to generate as much as they didn't accept as much as they had wanted to. You see that from the bills that were tendered, there were 5 billion of them. The target was 6.1. Government failed to hit its target for that year, and of course some have attributed it to the drastic rate cuts, making it look unattractive, especially when you peg the rate against inflation that is still hovering over 20%. It means that technically investing in T-bills based on the current rate, you'll be doing so at a loss. So it appears a lot of investors are beginning to look at other options beyond the T-bills market, and that's what the numbers are beginning to look like. We'll walk you through a few other happenings on the market over the period. Now, since the introduction or the cuts in the T-bill rates, we see an interesting happening also on the dollar front. We noticed that the dollar has remained relatively stable since the government began cutting the T-bill rates. We'll be exploring what this really means on the market and how this is supposed to impact generally on the business space, and especially how this will influence financial decisions and investment decisions for the investing populace. So basically, that's what the T-bill rate has been looking like for the last couple of days. You see over here, as of January 6, 2025, the rate stood at about 28%. We've seen it drop drastically now to about 15%, a very sharp decline. So we'll be looking at what next now for investors. Where then are people turning their attention to, or can turn their attention to? Because from what we've seen so far, a lot of people are beginning to move away gradually from the T-bills market. We have an investment analyst to answer some of these questions for us, and we delve into that conversation. So I have with me now finance and investment expert Nelson Kujo-Kwagbeji. Nelson, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
I'm sure you are not surprised with the happenings on the T-bills market.
Not at all, not at all.
So what stands out for you, especially on the T-bills market, with all the trends we've seen so far?
Well, as you can see, within a short time, the rate has reduced significantly from 28.9% in January 6 to 15.45% in April 14th. That is for the 91-day Treasury bill. And you can also see that the 182-day also reduced from 28.92% as at January 6, 2025 to about 16.21% as at the last auction, 14th of April 2025. So gradually, you see that the rate are significantly reducing.
Interesting. So now, the big question, since the whole haircut conversation, a lot of people have become skeptical. The bonds market is yet to really recover and return fully like it used to be. Now, people are wondering where to put their money. For you as an investment analyst, what will be your first option amongst all the ones that you have?
I think as an investment advisor, I will advise a client to put his money in an investment where the returns will be at least higher than inflation. You will see clearly that inflation as at the end of first quarter was at 22.4%. Now, as at the end of the first quarter also, the Ghana Stock Exchange has also outperformed inflation. And so as an advisor, I will advise my clients to also tilt their attention towards the Ghana Stock Exchange. Now, the Ghana Stock Exchange, as at the end of December 2024, the total market capitalization was about 112 billion Ghana cedis. And that has increased significantly to about 135 billion Ghana cedis, representing about 21.47%. As I speak now, the composite index that measures the performance of the market is at 27.19%. which is higher than the 91-day Treasury bill rate, which is higher than the 182-day Treasury bill rate, and even which is higher than inflation. And so maybe some of the investors may be tilting their attention towards the stock exchange.
Interesting. So for those who may not understand the dynamics of this, how different is investing, for instance, in the stock market from investing in a T-bill? What are the upsides and what may be the downsides?
All right. When you invest in a fixed income, the presumption is that you are entitled to fixed returns. And so you go and buy T-bill. The rate of the T-bill currently is 15.45%. So which means that at the end of the 91-day, you'll be getting the 15.45%. So the return is certain, okay? But when you invest in the stock market, there are only two sources of income or return when investing in the stock market. And that is the capital gains, appreciation of the value of the stock, and also when dividends are paid. So basically, those are the two sources of income when you invest on the stock exchange. And so for fixed income securities, their return is fixed, whilst you can say the stock market, their return is variable because
Okay.
it's also dependent on the performance of the listed company.
But at least from what you've seen so far, the returns or the average returns on the stock market is way higher than inflation.
Yes,
of course, higher.
exactly.
Than, I think if you're even comparing, it's more than 10 basis. It's about 10% higher than what we are seeing.
It's about 11% higher than the 91-day treasury
bill rate.
Yes.
So it makes it even more attractive to
to invest.
But of course, the stock market is unpredictable. It doesn't mean that you would necessarily get that margin at the end of the year.
Yes, so that is why I was saying that the stock market is a market where there is what we call, for the fixed income market, the returns is fixed. But for the stock market, the returns is variable because it is dependent on, one, the performance of the company, and it is dependent on the performance of the market itself. That is why the only return that is tailored on somebody who buy, a stock is the appreciation of what you call the capital gains and also the dividend when it is paid.
Interesting. Now, when we look at the graph, it looks like at least the stock market isn't doing too bad. So it's just a matter of finding which company that is doing well to put your money behind.
Exactly.
But really, to help for those who are not sure where to turn to, how do you get information on which of them to invest in?
Well, so you don't just stand up and say, I am buying shares in MTN, I am buying shares in EcoBank. We normally do what you call a coverage report. And so you approach an analyst, he will conduct what you call a coverage report or a research, conduct a financial diagnostics on a listed company to determine the performance of the company.
Okay.
And based on that, we will advise the client whether to buy, or if their client is already holding the investment already, whether to hold the investment, or if based on the market dynamics, then the client can actually sell the stocks that is holding. Now, when you look, these are some of the listed stocks that are quoted or listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange. Yeah. You will see that as at now, some of them are doing very well. You will see ETI, EcoBank Transactional Incorporated, which is also having about 174.2% year-to-date performance, which means that if you are holding the stocks of, ETI, beginning of the year till date, your stock would have appreciated by 174%. Okay. If you look at MTN is 27.6%, which also means that the growth or the value of the stock as at the end of the first quarter for MTN is 27.6%. So you see that the stock market is quite doing very well. The only challenge on the Ghana Stock Exchange has to do with liquidity. The market is highly illiquid. This is because investors are ready to go into the market, but potential investors are ready to go into the market, but those who are holding the stocks, they are not ready to sell. And so there is limited, stocks that are available for investors to buy. Okay. So illiquidity is a major challenge. It's a major challenge. That's an interesting one. But I do know that at least some of the companies listed there are still floating some of their shares. So it's all about knowing where to so that is on the secondary market. That is on the secondary market. Okay. Interesting. So we've looked at the T-bill, the stock market. We've seen that the rates of return is quite higher than T-bills. So if you want to put your money somewhere, this is where you can put it. But like you said, the drawback with this is that there's a liquidity challenge. Yes, and it means that unlike the T-bills that you would have gotten the full amount after you get your interest on the amount you put inside, with this, you have to be able to sell the stock first of all before you can get it. Yes. Okay, interesting. So point one noted. What other options would well, I think another option that is available has to do with the currency. You know, the cedi has enjoyed some level of stability for some time now. As at the end of about the 10th of April, the cumulative depreciation of the cedi was about 5.04%. And from 10 April to about 10 February to about 16th of April, the cedi has also depreciated about 0.18%. So cumulatively, from January to date, the total depreciation of the cedi is 5.22%. Okay. Okay. So that tells you that relatively, the cedi is enjoying some level of stability. And this level of stability that the cedi is enjoying can be attributed principally to external and internal factors. External factors has to do with the softening of the dollar as a result of the trade war between U.S. and the other global, mighty powers. And so because of the trade war and the tariff regime that they are implementing now in the U.S. on all nations, you will see that the dollar is actually, not being a bit stable. So that has given some stability to the cedi. So that is based on the external factors. Internally, I think the Bank of Ghana periodic forward forex auction that they are doing is also giving some level of stability to the cedi. You also realize that our gross international reserve, the gross international reserve has also increased modestly. As at the end of 2024, our gross international reserve was 4 months of import cover.
Okay.
But as at the end of February 16, or as at the end of February, our import cover was 4.2 months. So all these dynamics comes into interplay to give some level of stability to the cedi.
Well, we know some of the stability we are enjoying is partly because we haven't resumed payment of our external debts. So,
well, you may say so.
We can look at it. But it's also interesting that when you look at the performance of the US dollar since the cut of the T-bill rates, many had expressed concern that if government begins to do that, it risks further depreciating the currency, as many will turn to the US dollar as an investment option. But the numbers are telling us something otherwise, unless maybe some will argue that 2 months is not enough time to predict how the market will perform. But at least you can see that since they began the rate cut somewhere around 17th February, the cedi to the US dollar has remained within the 15 cedis 50 pesos range.
Exactly.
I'm sure you agree with that.
Yes, I agree with that. And so there is this presumption that people are buying dollar in order to keep, and then when the cedi is not doing well, then they can release the dollar into the system. But there is no empirical evidence to support that. So currency is an option that an investor may want to go in. You buy it, you keep it, the value goes up, you sell it, you make your margin.
But looking at the spread between 17th February and 14th April, 0.02 cedis is not enough motivation for people to even look there, don't you think?
Well, that is, in terms of volume, it may amount to a lot of gains.
So you were walking us through there.
Yes. So that has to do with the dollar. Now, the next option that is available is the corporate bonds.
Okay. So just to be clear before you finish.
Yes.
So the dollar bit is an investment option.
Yes.
However, from what the numbers are showing, it doesn't look too attractive.
It doesn't look for now.
For now.
Because the cedi has enjoyed some level of stability, as I explained earlier, as a result of the external factors and internal factors. So there is stability. So it's not really a motivation, but yet people are still going for it as an investment option. Okay,
at least to diversify their portfolio.
But
on the other hand, we should expect this stability to continue, especially now that we are expecting some $370 million injection from
the IMF. Yes, so that will also impact positively on the stability of the cedi. But the question is, can that be sustained into the medium term? We can't tell. But for the immediate to short term, we may enjoy some level of stability.
Okay, interesting. So the next one for you. So we've looked at the stock market, we've looked at currency, and then the third
precisely the dollar.
The dollar.
Because that is our major trading currency.
Okay.
Then the next one that we may look at is the corporate bonds. The corporate bonds are normally issued by institutions.
Okay.
So instead of them to go to the stock market to raise money, most of them may not want to dilute their, shareholdership. And so they may prefer to go in for debt instead of stocks. And so as it stands now, there are 13 companies or 13 issuers on the fixed income market that are issuing corporate bonds. Cumulatively, the total amount of corporate bonds that have been raised amounted to about 24 billion, Ghana cedis. But before we proceed with the corporate bond, I want to comment briefly on the stock exchange because it's very important to note that in terms of dollar performance, the Ghana Stock Exchange is the best performing exchange in Africa. Yes, so when you compare the performance of the Ghana Stock Exchange to the major exchanges in Africa, in terms of dollar, you realize that the Ghana Stock Exchange is doing a little over 20% year to date in terms of dollar, even higher than the La Bourse Régionale des Valeurs Mobilières and Côte d'Ivoire. That is the regional stock exchange for Francophone countries in West Africa. When you take the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, you take the Nigerian Stock Exchange, you take the Tunisian Stock Exchange, you realize that as it stands now, the Ghana Stock Exchange is the best performing exchange in Africa. And so that should be appetizing for investors, not only local, but foreign investors to come in.
It's quite surprising to hear that we are doing better than the top two major economies on the continent.
Yes. So from the data we have gathered, Ghana Stock Exchange is actually doing 20.61% returns in terms of dollar. The Tunisian index is also doing 13.3% year to date. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange is doing 8.55%. The Egyptian 30, the index that measures the top 30, listed companies on the Egyptian Stock Exchange, is 8.26%. Now, when you go to La Bourse Régionale de Valeurs Mobilières and Côte d'Ivoire, they are doing 8%. 8%. 8%. Then when you go to the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Nigerian Stock Exchange all-share index, they are doing 2.61% in terms of dollar. So you see clearly that the Ghana Stock Exchange, as at the end of the first quarter, is the best performing market in Africa.
What would you say is working for us, just out of curiosity?
Well, it could be the dynamics of the economy that is also playing directly into the market, because once your market is doing well, technically we presume that your economy is also, following suit. So maybe the government is doing something well that is translating into this performance. And this is not the first time that the Ghana Stock Exchange is outperforming the other colleagues within the continent. I think last year or last 2 years, the Ghana Stock Exchange was the best performing stock exchange in Africa.
That's impressive, especially when these are figures coming from an election year where things are usually slow.
Yes.
Okay, so now to the
yes,
corporate
bonds. Corporate bonds, as it stands now, there are 13 companies that have issued, bonds on the Ghana fixed income market. Initially, it used to be only government that raises bonds and treasury instruments within the fixed income market. But as it stands now, there are 13 companies that are listed on the Ghana fixed income market.
Okay.
And the total value of debt that have been raised on the Ghana fixed income market in terms of corporate bond is 24 billion Ghana cedis.
Wow.
Now, when you look at the shelf registration, that is the amount that the 13 companies wants to raise is 36 billion Ghana cedis.
Okay.
Now, when you take the 24 billion Ghana cedis from the 36 billion Ghana cedis, you realize that there are more opportunities that investors can take advantage of.
Okay.
The only disadvantage about corporate bonds is that they are a bit risky. Okay, they are a bit risky, and before an investor can purchase a corporate bond, the investor must look at the credit worthiness of the issuer, as to whether the issuer is credit worthy or the issuer is not credit worthy. But I'm sure to the extent that these companies are listed on the fixed income market, it means that the regulatory authorities have done their due diligence, their cash flow position is good, their corporate governance positions are okay, and it means that these companies don't pose any threat as far as payment of the debt obligation is concerned. And so corporate bonds is also one of the options that are available to investors currently in Ghana.
Interesting. Okay, so what's the final list for you?
Well, the final list for me has to do with real estate investment. The real estate investment in Ghana is currently developing. But as it stands now, there are only 2 real estate investment trust schemes that we have, within the financial market. This is how it works. They work like a mutual fund, where an investor will buy units, in the trust. The trust will use the cumulative amounts to buy, a real estate property or whatever. And then the rental income, or the income that will come from the real estate, will be distributed among the investors based on their unit holdings. So these are some of the options that are available, on the market as far as investment within the Ghanaian financial market is concerned.
Okay, so you hold your thoughts there on that particular one. We'll go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll go into the nitty-gritties and how to enter and the likes. Stay with us. This is Business Focus here on TV3. Please stay tuned. and Telecel. Now, before we continue our conversation on which other investment options you can consider apart from the T-bills, remember that every day people face different emergencies: police emergency, fire emergency, medical emergency, you name it. But many Ghanaians don't know their emergency numbers. Well, here's one you'd want to remember. That's *770#. Yes, *770# is the new EcoBank money emergency number. *770# gives you instant access to loans, fund transfers, utility payments, airtime and data purchases, and so much more, even without data. So there's no need to panic when you find yourself in any money emergency. EcoBank will always come to your rescue. And remember that EcoBank is your Pan-African bank, and all you have to do is dial *770# for solutions to your money emergency. EcoBank, the Pan-African bank. We'll continue now our conversation on where else you can invest. We've walked you through quite a number of them. We've looked at the stock market, we've looked at the currency market, we've looked at corporate bonds and the like. So now you're walking us through, Nelson, you're walking us through the corporate bonds. What really are the difference between them and the traditional stock markets? All right,
sure. So basically, the corporate bonds are just like any other bond. They are debt instruments. And once they are debt instruments, the issuer will be paying what you call coupons periodically. In Ghana, we do the semi-annual. Every 6 months, your coupons hit your account. Then at the end of maturity, the issuer will return your principal back to you. And so with the corporate bond, it operates just like any fixed income security. However, with the stock market, it is a bit risky because you may not know the performance of the company. You may not know how the economy will play on the entire financial market. And so you cannot be certain that this is how much I'm going to earn at the end of the period. However, you can only bet your hope on 2 sources of income: capital gains and then dividends. So basically, these are some of the differences. And so for the stocks, you buy the stocks, you sit at home praying that the value of your stock will appreciate. You pray that the company's stock that you have bought will do well, they will declare dividend, they will pay dividend, and then you can take your dividend and go away. So basically, these are the differences. The corporate bond, they are debt instruments. The stock market, you don't raise debt in the stock market. Okay,
interesting. So anything else that stands out for you with the corporate bonds?
Well, with the corporate bond, as I did indicate, there are 13 companies that are actually in the market. They have raised a total of about 24 billion Ghana cedis.
Okay.
When you look at the shelf register, there are about 36 billion Ghana cedis that they intend to raise, which means that there is still opportunity for investors. And so, as and when the issuers wants to go into the market to raise additional, numbers, then it presents opportunity for, investors to go in there and buy them. The only difference is that as for this one, they are a bit risky. Because before you go and buy a bond that is issued by a corporate organization, you need to look at the qualitative and the quantitative data before you can make such a decision. And that is basically based on the creditworthiness of the issuer.
Oh, and like some say, even government has defaulted on bonds, so one has to be more careful.
Exactly.
I guess that underscores the importance of talking to a financial analyst or an industry expert before
you proceed to buy any financial instrument.
Okay, but what averagely are the returns on?
Well, for the returns, you cannot emphatically mention that these are the returns on the corporate bonds.
Okay.
But they will be a little higher than the treasury bill. Normally, they are normally treasury bill +3 or +5, depending on the risk nature of the company and also the credit worthiness of the company.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. So to the final one for you?
Well, the final one, we are looking at the gold, the Ghana gold coin. In fact, the Ghana gold coin presents an avenue for wealth creation because naturally, gold is resistance to economic and other geopolitical instability. Once, even if there is during the period of war, you realize that even the value of gold will continue to appreciate. And so gold, the Bank of Ghana gold coin, presents a fine opportunity for investors to actually look into that area. In fact, the gold coin is actually issued in tranches. So you have the one that is a 1 ounce, we have the 0.5 ounce, then we have the 0.25 ounce. Now, as at the time it was issued, the 1 ounce was at 44,000, a little over 44,000 cedis. Currently, it is at 51,000 Ghana cedis, which means that there is a return of 16.42%. Okay. When you look at the 0.5 ounce, when it was issued, it was a little over 22,000 Ghana cedis. But currently, it is trading as 26,000 Ghana cedis. That is a half an ounce. So technically, we are making 16.17%. Then when you take the 0.25 ounce, when it was issued, it was a little over 11,000. But currently, it is being traded at a little over 13,000 Ghana cedis, which means that it has also made a gain of about 15.03% year to date. So cumulatively, from the time it was issued year to date, the total returns on the BOG gold coin is about 17.7%, which is also hovering around the 182-day, TB rate, and also lesser than inflation.
Lesser than inflation, so
yes.
it's not too exciting.
Yes.
But some are also projecting that, from what we've seen on the international market, gold prices are beginning to tip upwards, especially because of what's happening with the China-US trade wars. A lot of people are beginning to look for more safer alternatives. So I'm guessing that going forward, we should expect higher returns from gold.
Exactly. The reason why I said that gold naturally is resistant to economic and geopolitical instabilities. Whether there is war or no war, you will see gold values keep on appreciating.
Thank you so much. Any final words?
Well, I think that the treasury bill market, the rates are coming down. And so if any investor or anybody wants to buy any financial instrument, the person should seek competent and relevant industry-based advice before the person can proceed to buy any financial instrument. Because you cannot just stand up and say, I'm going to buy shares on the Ghana Stock Exchange without any advice, or you are going to buy bonds issued by a corporate organization without any, competent technical, advice. So I want to encourage investors who are listening to us this evening that if you want to buy any financial instrument, you must seek expert advice before you proceed to do such an investment.
Thank you so much.
Thank
that
you.
was Nelson Kudjo-Kwagbeji. He's a finance and investment expert walking us through the various options you can consider beyond the T-bills if you're looking for an investment option, financial instrument to put your money in. This is Business Focus. We'll go for another quick break. When we come back, we'll delve into more stories. Please stay tuned. Business Focus. So over the weekend, government had put together a program at Kwahu called the Kwahu Business Forum that had representation from various government agencies, financial institutions, and the likes. We were there to cover the event, and we put together a package to bring you highlights of happenings at the Kwahu Business Forum. Take a watch.
We must now set our sights higher on transformation of the economy. We must build an economy that is resilient, inclusive, and productive. And this cannot be achieved without a financial sector that works not just for a few, but for every Ghanaian business, from the roadside vendor to the massive industrialist. Our vision for Ghana's future business landscape is bold and deliberate. We're pursuing a targeted program in restoring investor confidence by enhancing transparency, cutting bureaucratic red tape, and promoting a rules-based investment climate. We're prioritizing sectors that can absorb labor and grow our economy sustainably, like agro-processing, ICT, manufacturing, tourism, renewable energy, and the green economy. But our focus is not only on attracting foreign investment. We're equally committed to empowering Ghanaians to become owners and drivers of enterprise. And this is why this government will support the private sector, not just with policy, but with decisive action. We will expand access to affordable financing through financial institutions like the commercial banks, the Ghana Development Bank, the Women's Development Bank, and partnership with other private financial institutions. We'll support small and medium enterprises with targeted financing, tax incentives, and technical support. We'll modernize infrastructure, including roads, logistics, and digital connectivity, to create an environment where businesses can thrive. We'll reduce the cost of borrowing by reforming credit systems and supporting blended finance instruments. And we'll retool the financial sector to serve the real economy, not just government borrowing or speculative trading. We also will launch a national venture capital fund to support youth and women-led businesses and introduce regulatory reforms that encourage banks and financial institutions to lend to the productive sectors of the economy.
In today's rapidly evolving global trade landscape, Ghana is taking bold steps to position itself strategically for increased market access and competitiveness. Our key initiative focused on export development, trade facilitation, and the provision of financial and technical support to businesses. Our flagship Accelerated Export Development Program is designed to empower Ghanaian exporters to penetrate regional and international markets, including ECOWAS, the EU, and UK, focusing on high potential sectors such as garment, processed food, and pharmaceuticals. Together with the Ghana Export Promotion Authority and the National After Coordination Office, the ministry is embarking on targeted export expeditions to deepen trade relationships and improve market access. I am pleased to announce that under a special initiative by His Excellency the President, I'll be leading a high-powered private sector delegation to China to pursue targeted B2B engagement that promises to unlock significant economic opportunities between our countries.
Very eventful session since the start. The President a while ago delivered his speech, as well as the majority leader in Parliament. Various financial institutions that were represented have taken their turns also to present the various products that they have up for grabs. But as you know, the core focus of this event is to address the major challenge of a number of businesses across the country, and that is access to finance. So this particular event, which started actually last year while the President was then a candidate of the NDC, sought to bring together various business leaders and financial institutions to basically judge on how to help basically the private sector get access to the needed funds to expand the economy and also help address the issue of unemployment in the country. The President in his statement reiterated his government's commitment to creating an enabling environment for businesses to thrive. He also emphasized the fact that his government was going to work to realign the financial system in the country to make access to credit more affordable. He also spoke about plans to turn the Afram Plains also into an agro-processing hub for the country. I have with me the Traders Advocacy Group Ghana president, who has been a participant in this program, to pick his thoughts on how the event has gone so far. Well, thank you so much for your time. What do you make of this program, and how much of a big deal do you think it is for you as business leaders?
I think it's been insightful, and me, a businessman, what's gladdest my heart, my happy moment, was them appreciating the difficulty that the Ghanaian businessmen will go through. The trust issue that we have in Ghana, that now you see a lot of people bringing expatriates to manage their business. I think it's something that the turning curve we should turn. Failure to turn that a lot of our people will finish school and they will come unemployed because of the trust issues that we have as Ghanaian. You employ somebody and within a week the person beat away with thousands of Ghanaian cedis. And how many business will be able to succeed when this trend continues to go on? So I think it's something that we should be emulating, something that we should continue to do. It shouldn't be a 9-day wonder. And the banks that they've been here, the way they give those facilities to our people, it doesn't encourage business at all. And we wish that they will listen to the advice from His Excellency John Dramani Mahama for them to give us soft loans, long-term facility that will enable a Ghanaian businessman to also do business. Bearing in mind that we have Africa Continental Free Trade Head Office here. And if I'm doing business, I'm competing, I'm selling in the same market with somebody who is taking loan interest rate of 7%, 8%, and 12%. And a Ghanaian businessman taking a facility and paying 36%. How can that Ghanaian businessman be in business? How can he compete with somebody who is taking a facility with interest rate of 8%?
Now, you heard the President also say that he believes that as a country we can move beyond just trading into the manufacturing industry. For you as Traders Advocacy Group Ghana, what do you make of this, and is that something you are open to consider?
Yes, it's something that everybody knows, but no country on this planet can do away with trading. Yes, every businessman is like a police person. The final destination of every police personnel is to become an IGP. So we start trading, do the statistics. All those who are in manufacturing now, they started trading. So you start trading, then you move to become a manufacturer. Okay? So there's nothing demonic about trading. Let's establish that point. There is nothing. They keep on demonizing buying and selling. Trade, no. Even if you have a factory, after you product, you need a trader. Okay? So yes, we hit to that advice, but do not let anybody demonize buying and selling or trading.
Thank you so much. Okay, important to also stress that as you speak at the moment, there are more than 10 banks and financial institutions currently representing here with their stands basically set up and up displaying basically the products that they have for all the various businesses and SMEs in the country at the moment. Thank you so much for your time as well. Tell us, what do you make of this event so far and what are your initial impressions?
Yeah, thank you. Very impressive. The future of every country depends on business, that's local businesses. So having such an engagement to reignite our importance in an economic play, I think is very important.
At least you heard the president say that his government is committed to creating an enabling environment for businesses and also ensure that there's affordable or cheap capital for you as business folks. From how the government has fared so far, do you see this materializing?
Very well. You see, I always say governance is about leadership, and leadership is about consistency and being truthful with your words and your actions. Proud to the government coming in, they made some promises about scrapping yield levy, and although he has stick to those words, he was able to do that. Gives us sample that his words and actions, of course, will work together for our good. Creating that enabling environment for us is an assurance, and we believe he can do that. He can do that because ABSA is able to do that. ABSA have able to partner with MasterCard Foundation, and they are giving loans to business as low as 10%. That means that when we have total government intervention in our borrowing rates, it will come down to create that enabling environment he's talking about, access to that cheap capital he's talking about. We believe in him. We will watch that he's able to do it as early as possible because time is of essence to business survival.
Thank you so much. I just spotted the Deputy Minister of Finance. I'm trying to approach him to speak to him briefly on what he makes of this entire event. Honorable, thank you so much for your time. So we've heard a lot from the presidency, especially with affordable credits for businesses. What's your take on this?
That is what will save us as a country. But the question we keep asking is that if government is borrowing at 30%, do you think banks will be having any incentive to lend to the private sector? And so government must make conscious effort not to crowd out private businesses. And over the last 3 months, that is what our government is doing. We are constraining borrowings on the T-bill market, and that has brought down the interest on T-bill significantly from about 28%, the 91-day T-bill from about 28% to the current 15.4%. If we are able to sustain this, and if inflation is brought down, we'll see all the positive things happening. And then businesses will have access to the credit that they need. It is not rocket science, but we believe that there has to be a deliberate intentions and actions by government to do this so that we allow the financial institutions to lend to private sector.
But amidst all of this, lending rate is still quite high. True, you are cutting the T-bill rates, but some have described it as artificial because if the T-bill rates are low, inflation is still quite high, and lending rate is high. As some say, it's cost 90. What do you say?
It is a process. You don't expect the rate setting to be done overnight. And so with the current downward trend, we expect inflation to also continue to trend downwards. Once that happens, you see the lending rate also going down. And then we would have succeeded in having some sort of equilibrium. And so it is going to happen. We are. And you see, now fuel prices at the pump is also going down. We expect that if it continues, our transport unions must also be in sync and reduce lorry fares, transport fares. Once that is done, it is going to have significant impact on inflation. And you see, food inflation is the main driver of our inflation today. And it is all because of the transportation and distribution and storage of our food items. So once these things happen, we are going to see all these indices being aligned.
Okay, so that was the Deputy Finance Minister there speaking to us basically on government's commitment to creating an enabling environment with some of the initiatives that it is implementing so far, including the cuts on the T-bill market, the rates. So we are still here at the Kwahu Business Forum exhibition grounds, and we're speaking to some of the financial institutions that have come to be part of this event. Thank you, madam, for your time. Thank you for talking to us. So what has been the response so far since your participation in this event?
Oh, it's been very exciting. We met, of course, a lot of our valued customers, and we thank them for banking with us. But importantly, we also had very exciting new potential relationships that we are keenly looking forward to actually working with.
How important are platforms like this to businesses like yourself, especially in your efforts to reach out to SMEs who need what you have to offer?
I think you would agree with me that you can never sell your message enough. So every time there will be somebody new who hear the message. And so for us, for platforms like this give us opportunity to reach more people, reach new people. And for those that have heard it, it doesn't hurt to reiterate the opportunities and the solutions we have for them. So it's a very important platform for us because, like I said earlier, we got to meet so many new people that hitherto were not aware of some of the things that we had for them. But of course, even those that bank with us also got to know some of the new things that we have on board. So it's a very important platform, and we're actually glad that we got to be part of this platform as well.
The key conversation in all of this is the issue of access to credit and, of course, at very competitive rates. How do you think discuss like this help drive the conversation further?
Well, I mean, I think clearly if you were in the room yesterday, you realize that even the businessmen will tell you that, yes, access to credit is important, but they need more than that. So the training, the support, advisory services, these are all things that businesses need. And I'm glad that at EcoBank we have all these things for our businesses. But of course, if you're looking for money, if you're looking for affordable loans, if you're looking for loans, long-term loans that allow you to do your business and take your time to grow, we have that. And so there was no doubt that at the end of the forum, you had all of them coming to Abu talking to us. And so we look forward to having all of them back in our branches, calling us, coming to visit us so we can conclude all the discussions and the conversations we began yesterday.
The event has been widely successful according to participants, and already there are calls to scale it further and extend it to other parts of the country. Is that an idea you buy into?
Oh, yes. I mean, clearly, we said we're starting in Kwahu. It's a Kwahu Business Forum. I'm sure there are other places that we can take these very, very important and exciting ideas to. And wherever it goes, we'll be along. We'll come along the train. So it's not something, we are not jumping off the train anytime soon because it's important that we support all the conversations happening. And we are here to ensure that businesses thrive and grow.
As we are meeting businesses here, we are looking to also show them some export-oriented investment areas that they can invest their monies into, and then to be able to project and export more so that we can strengthen our economy. So
what has been the reception so far?
It's been great. We have had a lot of people coming in to inquire about the exports, about what we do, about the exporting areas, the good areas that they can invest their money in and then be able to upscale and export more.
We are telling the whole Ghana is that ESTA is not about enjoyment alone, but it's about networking. It's about growing our businesses. It's about meeting people we have not met before. We believe that this Easter and the Easters to come will not just be about having fun, but it is about learning, growing businesses, and having network. We are just telling everybody that we are not yet done.
The responses have been very marvelous, not necessarily from the government side, but from the bankers, the exhibitors, and the participants. And when that has happened, it means that there's hope for the future. Naturally, what the president intends doing is to use this as a springboard for many, many other things to happen. You can see that already everybody is calling for a repeat of it. So that will be granted. But then another issue that's also come up is that people are expecting that we could have it at a bigger venue so that exhibitors will have enough space to be able to display their wares and products and things like that. We've also had calls from other sectors of the economy. For example, the insurance groups, they are saying, why could you do this minus us? Don't you know that insurance companies also sometimes do extend credit facilities? So next year, we're going to invite all the insurance companies. Then we also have finance houses, discount houses that were not brought in here. In fact, pension fund managers have also approached us that, look, you guys, don't you think we are the ones with enough money that could go for long haul? And so on a much larger scale, and in the thinking of the president, next year we're going to expand this, maybe the venue that can host about 5 times what you just saw. And we're going to do it. It's not just talking and, that's why the regional minister is here. She got to look for the land and make sure the project is built in a record time. Next year, for instance, we'll work with Association of Ghana Industry, Association of Indigenous Businesses, National Chamber of Commerce, so they will be invited ahead of time, so that anybody who wants to come will book their rooms ahead of time, and then will come. People will be going through the exhibitions, others will be attending the conferences. That way, they will think we are moving the nation forward. We just want to do things in a more practical manner. It's not about book or reports. It's about practically. How do you get funding to assist your people who want to go into business?
The president had in his speech assured that his government was committed to creating an enabling environment for businesses to thrive while tackling the issue of high cost of credit. This is part of the reason why the Kwahu Business Forum was established. And for businesses in the country, they can only hope that this pledge materializes. Michael Obodu, Kwahu Business Forum, Eastern Region. Remember that every day people face different emergencies: police emergency, fire emergency, medical emergency, you name it. But many Ghanaians don't know their emergency numbers. Well, here's one you'd want to remember. That's star 770 hash. Yes, star 770 hash is the new EcoBank money emergency number. Star 770 hash gives you instant access to loans, fund transfers, utility payments, airtime and data purchases, and so much more, even without data. So there's no need to panic when you find yourself in any money emergency. EcoBank will always come to your rescue. And remember that EcoBank is your Pan-African bank, and all you have to do is dial star 770 hash for solutions to your money emergency. EcoBank, the Pan-African bank. And that'll be all for today's edition of Business Focus here on TV3. For more business stories, please visit our website, s3news.com/business. I am Michael Obodu. Thank you for watching. A happy holiday to you. As always, stay safe and catch you next week.
Business Focus is brought to you by EcoBank.